So I'm given also 10 minutes, I guess, to present some of the results from the Dialogic book reading. My name is Rasmus Riad. I'm a PhD student here at Stockholms University, as I said previously. I'm really happy to see so many old and new faces. So the data I will present comes from the first wave of the Dialogic book reading. And by the first wave, I mean during the period of 2019 and 2020. Is there anything else I should say? And the results I will focus on during this presentation is mainly about the language skills and well-being. Interesting. And actually, we have more results to be presented, and that will be published in the future concerning both the language outcomes for the children, and as also we have a lot to present about teacher perspectives on the implementation and teacher health related to introducing this intervention. But that will come later. So today it will be just language and well-being, okay? And from longitudinal research, we know that mounting evidence says that the early language skills, meaning the language abilities you have before the age of 6, they affect how you perform later in school and also later in life, actually. And in particular, the oral language skills seem important, both for developing the reading and writing skills you need, but also affect the reading comprehension. Okay, and the language skills during this period before the age of 6 has also been connected to well-being in the sense, though, that limited language skills, children with limited language skills have a high risk of being victimized by peers, so bigger risk for being bullied. But also their social status among children in the group have been observed to be lower for children with lower language skills. So no, it's a risk factor for lower well-being with limited language skills. Okay, and with this sort of short background in mind, we were interested in finding in the most recent study that will be available any day now, as per perhaps tomorrow, actually. We were interested in finding can we find a relationship between the well-being of the children included in our study and their language skills. Can we observe anything there? And also, is there any difference connected to if the children have a specific gender, so boys or girls? Because there are some data indicating that could be the case. Or their language background, meaning if they speak another language in home than the majority language, Swedish. Does that affect their well-being or their language skills? All right. Yeah, that was all. Okay, so we have the two concepts of language and well-being. And concerning the language, we were focused on vocabulary with both a standardized test where children elicit the correct answer from 4 options. So I say car, and they're supposed to point to the correct response. And then we have the study-specific measure, where children are to describe specific words, such as those I recited in the film we saw previously. So if I say unpleasant, which was the target word, tell me about unpleasant. Okay, and then the child were supposed to say as much as they could about that word. And then we also tested the narrative skills, their ability to tell and retell a 6-picture story, and afterwards asking comprehension questions to see is there a mismatch or a difference between their ability to tell the story or their comprehension of the story. Because if your language skills are limited, it could be that you could express less than you actually understand. So if someone actually asks, how did a fox feel in this situation? That's different from explaining it all by yourself. All right? Yes, and the well-being was an instrument called How I Feel About My School, where children are asked upon several aspects, 7, in the preschool environment, how they feel about the teachers, the peers, so that's related to people. And then we have well-being related to general aspects in preschool, such as how I feel when I'm going to preschool or how I feel at the playground. So all children had to rate how they felt. For instance, on my way to preschool, I feel like sad, okay, or happy. Okay. Yeah. And the sample is based upon 85 children, all the 85 children that were included in the first wave of Dialogic book reading, with a mean age of 5.47 and 58% of girls. You make the math. So basically, what's the relationship between language and self-reported well-being in preschool? The short answer is no, we could not find such a relationship. We will come back to that later, but then quickly go to the next question. Did we detect any differences related to gender or language background? Yes, actually we did. Partly we did. And we will look into that just in a second. And I'm just pre-warning you, or how to say, that the next picture is information intense, but I like to show it because I'm proud of it. So this is the model we used. And this is a visualization of the analysis we did, which is called the structural equation modeling, where all the aspects, all the data we gathered are included in one and the same model. But I will explain this in a more friendly format. Yeah, so we could not find a connection between language and well-being. The association was not clear enough to be statistically significant, as you say. Okay. But what we did find was that language background had an effect on vocabulary. So children coming from home where Swedish was not spoken, they had less vocabulary skills than children coming from a home where Swedish was spoken. And this is perhaps not surprisingly, because this is a tendency that it is observed internationally too. So we could see that. But on the other hand, there was no relationship with language background and narrative abilities. Okay, that makes you wonder why so, right? Because narrative ability is a more complex language skill. You need to, tell in an understandable manner, and so on. Several more skills than only answering vocabulary questions, right? How about well-being? No, language background did not affect the well-being of children. Okay, so neither children with Swedish as a home language or children with another language than Swedish in the home had any difference related to the well-being. Okay, basically a good result, I would say. How about gender? No, nothing related to gender. So the interesting result here is the thing related to the vocabulary, right? Because that's where we find difference. So what basically this study says is that the stage is set for an intervention that stimulates language, right? We need to improve the vocabulary skills of the children that are additional language learners or have another language in the home. So this study really shows or sets the stage and says, here, come do something. Because vocabulary is also a measure of how much you know about the world or how much you experienced. So these children needs reading, experiences, talking, and boosting their language, so to say. And that's basically what I was about to tell you today. But as I said in the introduction, we have more results, and we know for a fact that the words that we used in the books that we read, or you actually read for the children, they improved a lot in their vocabulary skills. We know that. And we will present those results soon, I hope. But yeah, I'll just stop there and thank you for your attention.